Hello, everyone. Blockchain development is a complex process that mixes all the challenges of software development, mathematics, and cryptography while trying to fit solutions for financial, commercial, and personal usage. Today on BSN's Long Story Short, we are joined by Yifan of Red Date Technology, Shangqi of Thoughtworks, and David Creer of GFT Group. In a minute, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves because I'm sure everybody's interested in learning more. I just wanted to add that make sure in the description below, you can find all the information about our Twitter at BSN Base. And of course, you can search on LinkedIn and on the website. So with that out of the way, why don't we start with a very quick introduction. Yifan, would you like to take the lead?
Okay, thank you, Ben. My name is Yifan He, and I'm the CEO and the founder of Red Date Technology. It's a Hong Kong of BSN. Glad to be here.
All right, Shangqi, would you like to throw an introduction in there?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I'm Shangqi Liu. I'm from South China. Actually, I'm the head of blockchain at South, as well as the general manager of South Hong Kong Macau market. So really glad to be here to join BSN's webinar to talk with you guys more about the blockchain challenges, actually.
Okay, and David, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm David Creer. I head up blockchain and DLT at GFT. And I suppose GFT, for those that don't know, we're a leading innovation-driven technology services provider, and we've been working in the DLT area for about the last 7 years or so.
Okay, that's fascinating. Are you on like the development side itself, or more of like a business development role?
So I kind of come from a development side, but more recently I've been kind of more on I suppose enterprise architecture, business development kind of role. To be honest with you, that's been my role for the past maybe like 3 or 4 years.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we have guests who are more on like a consumer-facing role, so it can be easier, I think, for the audience to understand what exactly they do. But I think now that you're more on the B2B side or the enterprise development side, this could be something that will be very insightful for people listening in. So yeah, why don't we just start? I want, one of the things we wanted to talk about is, kind of the roadmap for organizations as they're adopting blockchain, right? So assuming that an organization wants to adopt blockchain, how would you, approach them and, get them to adopt this technology? I think we can start with David. Just maybe go ahead and give us a quick intro here.
Yeah, sure. So we've done it quite a few times with a lot of different organizations, and I think the main thing is almost forgetting about blockchain. To be honest with you, you have to really think about your use case, and you have to be thinking about the pain points that you have inside your organization, and the unique ways in which you are trying to resolve those pain points. And if that points to areas where you have, for example, a need for extra transparency, or you have trust issues between different participants in the flow, then you obviously go with blockchain. The other thing is that you need to do your research. You need to understand what you are going to be putting into the market. Is there something out there that's already like that? Or is it something completely new? Can you reuse something that somebody's already done? So that's a really important step as well. Do your market research, understand what you've done before. And then the other thing is analyzing your NFRs. So your NFRs can really define the technology that you want to use. And it's really important to take that into consideration right at the beginning, not when you're in the actual projects itself, and understand and pick your technology based on all of that analysis that you've done before. And then finally, I suppose the other thing is to work with partners, technology partners like the BSN or solutions partners like GFT or consultancy partners like Thoughtworks, who you trust, and you know them from other areas as well. So work with partners that you trust, who you know are going to give you impartial advice, and they're going to make your development and your first steps into this world a lot easier.
All right, that's a good start. Shangqi, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I want +1 to David's point that to forgetting about the blockchain. For the roadmap, I don't really think there is a unified roadmap for different organizations to adopt blockchain tech. Because based on my own experience, we have different clients, different organizations. They may have different objectives and demands. Some of them are go for the pure technology innovation, and some of them are go for searching more disruptive business models, and some of them are going for the reducing their internal operation costs. Some of them are going for the trying to establishing the standards to lead their industry. We have to admit that different clients, their demands are reasonable. Depends on their different business context, different organizational context. So for most organizations, we have to see that they never pass through the POC phase for the blockchain adoption. I think that's totally fine. So for example, one of my clients, he started to explore the blockchain for global trade in bank industry since 5 years ago. And after years passed, he has already get funding from his bank and started a new company for 2 years, still quite focusing on the digital transformation of global trade industry. But no blockchain tech is used. I don't think this is something wrong. So on the road of exploring the blockchain adoption, I think we may get some inspiration that lead us into a totally different direction. But that's totally okay. But more importantly, don't forget to our original objective and our original goals. So whether to pursue the very pure, very simple technology innovation, or to pursue a new business model, or trying to reducing the operational cost, or trying to establishing the standards to lead the industry. I think that's the key to forgetting about the blockchain and trying to remember our original objective is most important.
I think it might be very helpful if you could give us some context on some of the clients that you work with in the industry.
So we really work with we have several focus industry like financial industry, global trade, and mobility. Automotive industry is definitely one of the industries that we quite focus on. Yeah.
So we've been working with most multinational tier 1 banks outside of blockchain for the last 30 years now, almost. And in the blockchain space, we generally work with these tier 1 banks, and we work with exchanges, and we also work with all of the kind of like financial services infrastructure providers in between as well. We also do kind of quite a few things in the industry space now. So for automotive companies and manufacturing companies, but we're kind of pushing into that space rather than traditionally being in that area.
Okay, and when you say exchanges, are traditional finance exchanges like securities exchanges, or more cryptocurrency related?
Yeah, so we've done a bit of both, to be honest with you. We have worked with traditional financial exchanges, and that's, we've done more there, to be honest with you. Them using DLT to be able to improve efficiencies, and to be able to have different types of products available in the marketplaces. But the other thing that we have done is we've helped banks build out their own crypto exchanges. So we've never really been in that, but I suppose before regulation really came into place in Switzerland and Singapore, and now in Germany, and hopefully in the whole of the Eurozone, and hopefully in the whole of in the whole of the world eventually. Before that regulation was in place, we weren't really very heavily involved in what I would say like crypto. We're involved in institutional crypto rather than crypto itself, and that's just because of the kind of clients that we have.
Okay, great. Yifan, did you want to add anything to this topic before we move on?
Okay. First, I think for companies, really analysis a new technology, really first thing to do is what kind of stage the new technology is. So for example, if one company, they are just make a judgment if they want to use Oracle, then it's very easy, right? Everybody understands what database is for. They just analyze that's MySQL, all kind of databases, and choose one. But if for a new technology like blockchain, first, the way just like Shangqi said, they usually have no idea what that is first. Okay, so they need to learn what blockchain is, and the problem for that is right now the definition of blockchain is totally different from industries, from different countries. So someone basically think the blockchain is a public chain, it's crypto. Then, so many companies, they say, okay, we don't want to touch it. They don't even look into that. So the first thing I think for the company is first they need to understand what blockchain technology truly is fundamentally. So from our perspective, we really, really like the technology. We think it's a revolution. The reason is we really, truly believe it's a new way to communicate and it's a new way to transmit data. So it's not really a technology for data storage. It's actually a new technology for data transmission and communication. So I always make that example. It's just like phone technology. So back in the 19th century, right, the phone was invented. So it's the phone technology actually linked two individuals. So make, two individuals can talk to each other in a long distance. That was revolutionary. But let's just think about if a business scenario involves 10 people. Okay, you only have phones, and then you pass the message to 9 parties, and each party actually gives 3 rounds of feedback. Remember, the feedback will infect the feedback of other parties. So just imagine if you want to make all 10 parties on the same page, you can do a very simple, math model to calculate. You probably need thousands of phone calls to make sure everybody is on the same page. Then how to make that communication even much more efficient? After almost 100 years, there's conference call. So all 10 people get in the conference call, and that actually changes the way to communicate how the data is passed. So then you just need 2 hours. Actually, everything is solved and handled, just like you did more than 1,000 calls, probably 50 years ago. So that's actually how make our human behavior, human communications much more efficient. So what we really understand is the internet is just like phone calls, because the technology involved in on internet is actually connecting 2 IT systems, okay, 2 computers, 2 data centers. And if you send a message out, if an IT process involves more than 10 IT systems, especially those 10 IT systems is within 10 different legal entities, then how you handle that? You still need to pass in data just like phone calls from one to another one, passing through, and any feedback from any IT systems only go back to one. So then you need, just like from regular phone call to conference call, then you need a technology to upgrade from the internet, this kind of linear transmission, to a much more efficient way. It's just putting all the IT systems in the same room, just like a conference call. So then you need a new way to transmit data, is broadcasting. Which means one party broadcasting the data to 9 parties, and anyone receive it, and also know other A receives the same data. It's very important, the information. And when they react, all other 9 parties receive same time. So it becomes a new way to transmit data on the internet. So that's what blockchain technology is. Because today, we 3 of us are technology companies. Any IT system, if you think about it, most of them actually the process is going through multiple IT systems. Right now, if you build a much more better communication, new method to transmit data, it actually makes the efficiency 5 times better. Sometimes it's even 10 times better, and more secure, more faster, and even much more effective. So that's what blockchain technology is. So those companies trying to do this, first they need to understand this. Then they design what kind of process needs this kind of upgrade. Then they look into what kind of technology we have and what kind of framework we want to use, what kind of blockchain technology. So because the blockchain industry is so early, so right now it's really hard for most companies even understand the situation. So it's just like in 93, 94, companies learned how to use the internet. I mean, they probably take, for some banks, it took them more than 10 years to even adopt the internet. So there's always a process. So right now, I don't suggest any company really use blockchain unless they understand the underlying meaning of that technology. Then they can choose wisely. And also right now, all the blockchain technology is premature. Okay, from my understanding, it's a little bit like the internet. Back in early 90s, all the universities, governments, they set up the internet, test everything, just different protocols. They think it's amazing, it's so powerful. Then after 5 years, they realize they need to connect all the internet and become internet. That's even 10 times more powerful. And they need to adopt a single protocol in order for the communication to happen. So that's really what the blockchain technology industry today. So the second reason for the company it's really hard to choose is because all the technology is premature. They test everything. It's really hard to install. It's very expensive to even set up the environment. Okay, then they say, okay, the CEO say, okay, they say let's wait for 3 more years to test this thing. So that's actually the difficulty we face today. That's how I think but I really suggest that all the companies right now need, at least the CIOs, try to understand what blockchain technology is. It will revolution. It's a new revolution. Okay, it will upgrade the entire internet, even update into some new protocol, communications protocol like HTTP. In the next 20 years. So personally, I really strongly suggest all the CIOs, CTOs look into this and try to understand this.
Okay, yeah, I mean, everyone usually focuses on the applications that can be built without actually considering the underlying technology. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And you also mentioned, the premature nature of the industry, which kind of leads into my next topic, particularly focused around, the challenges and educating people. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like for people who've been in the industry for a few years, it does feel like, we've been having similar conversations, like how long is it going to take for this to be adopted? It sounds like, Yifan, you have a very long-term view of how this development takes place. I'm curious more about David and Shangqi particularly, like, do you see yourselves having the same conversations over and over again? And, if so, like how do we approach this challenge of implementing the technology?
So from I think our clients are much more switched on than they were 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, we used to go into the room, we used to have to explain what blockchain is, we used to have to explain the difference between blockchain and DLT, we used to have to explain the difference between some of the platforms. Now, at least in most tier 1 banks, they have specialists who are already looking at that. So our clients are much more switched on than they were before, and they're making technology choices for themselves, and we are helping them make those technology choices as well. But that's very different to how it was 5 years ago. I still think we have the same issue that we had 5 years ago, which is that there's just so many different platforms out there, and every platform is taking a different angle on blockchain technology as well. So Ethereum is very different to IOTA, which is very different to Hedera Hashgraph, which is very different to Bitcoin, and they all do different things, and they're all for different purposes. So I think sometimes even though our clients are getting more informed about what is blockchain, what is crypto, what is DLT, they still have a lot of decisions to make. And that's why working with companies, I suppose, like ourselves is good, because we have maybe a more global view of the technology, whereas they have a more kind of, I suppose, funneled view about what they want to work on. So I suppose that's what I would say.
David, before we move on, I can't pass up the opportunity to ask, when you're dealing with these specialists inside banks working on blockchain, I mean, do you see a pro crypto approach, or are they still mostly focused on the private side?
No, it's changing. It's changing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, a lot of the banks that are based in Switzerland or have activity in Switzerland are now starting to provide crypto offerings for their clients. BBVA, for example, went live with their offering. Most of the tier one banks are looking at this in some way, shape, or form. So basically, if the regulators put regulation in place, the banks are going to do it because they're going to lose clients. They're going to lose investment clients to other banks who are doing it, or to non-traditional exchanges, basically. So it's something that is happening outside of the DLT space. They're also getting into crypto. There are some banks that are doing it more quickly, other banks that are taking baby steps, but most tier one banks are taking that pretty seriously now.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme in terms of, everyone we talk to, it seems has that opinion that, everybody wants to get in, everybody wants to be doing more. And the difference between the private side of blockchain and then the public cryptocurrency side seem to be getting closer and closer together. So yeah, I had to ask. But Shangqi, I want to go back to that last question about the challenges and, having the same conversation and educating people, and how you guys are seeing this.
Yeah, I would see the fundamental introduction is still very necessary for our industry as blockchain industry, because for the vertical side, we see different adoption maturity at different industry. Like for the FSI industry, they are more mature. They start to explore blockchain like 5 or 6 years ago, and they are more sophisticated. Like David said, you don't need to explain them the basic concepts, the public or permission blockchain, and they already have some self-maintained blockchain platform, and so they are more sophisticated. But for some other industry like retail, they're still trying to understand what is NFT, what is blockchain loyalty, how we can leverage emerging tech to bring value to my own business. So I would say for those technology, for those industries that have not adopted blockchain widely enough, so they still need a lot of introduction, and the case study is essential for them. So I would say it depends. But really for us, I think it's our duty to do this 101 session again to the public, to let more people know enough about blockchain. Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing the retail side jump in on the NFT bandwagon? I mean, it was just pretty, the numbers that were being thrown around this spring for NFTs. Did that translate over to the enterprise side?
Yeah, I would say yes, because Nike has already issued NFT for their shoes, and we have several clients at retail side trying to leveraging NFT as a way of marketing. And beyond that, they are also looking at how to using the tokenomics, the loyalty points to utilizing their existing customers, their existing members, and to better maintain their loyalty. I would say that is a signal we see from the market, from our customers.
Okay, and do you see a lot of staying power behind the NFTs? How do you coach the clients on this sort of thing?
Yeah, because it's quite hype. Usually we start from the hype. We talk about the funny stories. But I would say we do more inspiration for them, and whether we can adopt for their commercial uses, it's still very hard to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anything you wanted to add here, Yifan? Going back to the challenge of educating the enterprises, I guess, on blockchain.
I think probably need to advance the technology and make that much easier to understand, much easier to use, and much cheaper to use. Because at the same time, people can understand it, but when they want to try, it's very, very difficult, or it's very, very high cost. Then people just reluctant to do anything. Then, so I think that we need to continue to educate people, and all the blockchain tech companies, we need also advance to make things easier and much developer friendly. So, and also I want to answer another question is, you mentioned the crypto and the DLT, moving together. I think that's actually two separate things. Those banks, where they want to involve in the crypto, it's because the business started, not because of technology. And for DLT, people more, trying to intend to use DLT to serve as a technical platform to build their so it's I think those two things, one a little bit technical, one is a little bit business oriented. So they actually treat crypto as a security, as an investment. They need to get involved because there are so many traders and people buying and selling the crypto. So that's why. But I still think it's let's be patient. Okay, not like spend 2 years educate people. Do not make money and drop the whole thing. Like, IBM and Microsoft did. So that's and invest a little bit more, not too high, but advance the technology together forward. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, actually, I want to add one to Yifan's point because as head of blockchain at a technology consultancy, I lead engagements with different type of clients. For the conventional industry, they are more like how to using blockchain tech, the real blockchain or DLT tech to refactoring or replatform their existing business application or scenarios. But for the engagement with the we do have partnership. We have some clients in the crypto industry. They are leading crypto exchange or financial service or digital asset. As far as the collaboration we have with them, we are more focusing on the using the traditional technique, like you cannot using DEX cannot handle so much high volume transaction. You still need to using traditional exchange technology to handle the crypto exchange. So that's totally nothing to do with the blockchain tech itself. We're just regarding the blockchain tokens as investment portfolio and to some tech stack to integrate with. So, but for the technical side, we're still quite focusing on the traditional Java, Oracle, MySQL based stack. So that's quite interesting there.
Okay, yeah, that's a good clarification. I think the point I was trying to make was more about banks who were previously only receptive to the private side, maybe now more like Yifan said about the investment side, right, of cryptocurrencies. So as we get onto that note, I think it's very a good time to pivot towards the legislation side, because this year has been unbelievable. This summer, right? Because it started with China cracking down. Recently, we had Ontario and Canada cracking down on exchanges. The UK is also apparently cracking down on exchanges like Binance, right? So we're seeing a lot of crackback against these kind of unlicensed exchange financial models, right? So this is not maybe directly related to the work that you're doing as a consultant, but I mean, you must obviously kind of have your finger in the air and understanding that regulators are moving against the digital asset space a little bit. How are you guys seeing this, and what are you telling your clients right now about this regulatory space?
So I think I think it goes both ways, to be honest with you. So I think that there is more crackdown on the what we say like private exchanges. So the Binances or Coinbases or Krakens of this world, but there is more regulation in place that's being set in place for the advance of, for example, stablecoins or CBDCs, and there is regulation being set in place in certain countries like Germany, Switzerland, Singapore, I mentioned this before, around the use of crypto assets by certified companies that have had their checks done on them to make sure that they are actually doing their business in an appropriate way. So I think that as much as we are seeing some crackdowns on what we would say is kind of maybe the private side of crypto, the kind of more traditional side of crypto from everybody who's kind of been involved in it for quite for a while, we're also seeing that it's becoming more institutional. So that in the long run is probably going to be good for crypto, but maybe not so good for these private companies unless they become part of the institutional environment. So if these companies can then become part of this part of the institutional environment, they can become part of the regulations, and they can carry on working like that. It will be interesting to see what happens in places like Malta, what happens in places like this, where these crypto exchanges have been for a while as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in those places. Will they start to also tighten up their regulations or not? So I think it's I think we're seeing quite a few changes. Another thing is that we've been very lucky to have been working on projects where, for example, the Custody project, we were the technology partner that brought that to production, where the people that were working on it were working hand in hand with the regulator, so that the custody solution that we built and they provided was 100% regulated against the regulator. And again, another cryptocurrency platform that we did, which went live in the UK, was the same as well. It was actually this particular tier 1 bank was working with the FCA for I think, a year, 2 years, to be able to kind of get it to the point at which they said, okay, the FCA is actually comfortable with this institutional crypto exchange going live. So I think we are seeing crackdown on the private side, but we're also seeing opening up on the institutional side. Is that good or is that bad? I think it depends on where you are.
Yeah. Do you welcome that sort of working with the regulators, or do you see that as like, wow, this project's going to take another year longer than I planned? How do you see that, David?
I think so working with regulators and working with banks is our day to day, and things just take time. It's part of the process. Things move slowly, but regulators and banks and especially exchanges are also very forward thinking, and they, especially regulators, have been forced to be forward thinking because the banks are becoming and the exchanges are becoming more and more forward thinking, and the regulators are kind of catching up a little bit with them. So things like, for example, like the regulatory sandboxes that we're seeing that are being set up around crypto assets in Spain, the UK, and in Russia as well on CBDC, are the kind of forward-thinking assets that I think we're going to see more of. I'm hoping we're going to get one, for example, for the digital euro at some point in time, and that we can also start experimenting with our clients. So yeah, I think it's tough sometimes, but it's just the speed at which things go up, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating, this space, how things, on one hand you have, El Salvador announcing that they're going to be announcing Bitcoin, and then completely trying to adopt it within the span of weeks. And then on the other side, you have much slower paced, banks and government. So you never really know like how fast things are going to move, but when they go fast, they go fast. And when they go slow, they go really slow. So it's quite interesting in that regard. Yifan or Shangqi, did you want to jump in on these points before we move on?
Yeah, it's first, I think this is actually a very important topic here, okay? Because it's first, when we say regulation, legislation, on blockchain, it actually means three things, okay? Because when we issue a law, a regulation, it's very specific. So there's a group of people intend to mix those three things together, okay, from crypto industry. I can just name them from crypto industry. So there's three things. One thing is underlying technology, okay, which means it's those underlying frameworks, no matter it's permission or permissionless, built based on the new way to transmit data, okay, that's pure technology. The second thing is digital currency, which means stablecoin and the CBDCs in coming years. This as a payment, okay. The action is as the payment to pay each other, okay? When they change hands, it's for buying something. The third group is cryptocurrencies, and it's a security, it's an investment. So for regulations and legislation, for those three groups is totally different. Okay, the crackdown is actually targeting the third group because it's a security, it's an investment. If you go through all the laws, even criminal laws in every single country, there's a lot laws to regulate the investment. Why? Because all the investment or security need to be traded fairly. So that's why, if you go through the Chinese criminal law, you can see almost the 30, 50 laws to governing the security sector. Because, even you release some false information or you cook your book, it's criminal, you go to jail. And in the second group, for the currency, it's actually much, much relaxing. If you go through all the laws and the regulations, as long as you don't fabricate money, you are fine. Okay, you can burn money, you can do whatever you want. But for technology, usually there's no regulation to govern a pure technology. It's always, to define the result of the technology. You can run in as something, but if you run in to rob a bank, it's not right. Okay, but the people from crypto industry, they try to mix everything. When you mix everything, it becomes hugely confusing. Okay, people have no idea. That's why I totally don't agree the South American country to do that. Mm-hmm. That country actually makes the security nature to a currency nature. Then it becomes confusing, and trust me, it will cause a lot of troubles because people now can do money laundering legally with crypto in that country. Because it's a legal tender, you can use that as a payment currency. It's governed by the different law. That's a huge problem. I don't think that president or their Congress even realizes. So that's why it's always, when we discuss this, always distinguish into three different groups, which one we are talking about. So for crypto, I totally agree. You need because as long as the investment is a security, you need a fair trading. Okay, you cannot hold the information, you cannot do inside trading, you cannot scam people. It should be regulated. Otherwise, it causes a social problem.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of classifying. Go ahead, Shangqi.
I like to add 2 points. I agree that the regulation is definitely one very important for us as tech industry and for the for both blockchain and crypto. I would say that actually opened new opportunities for us to explore the blockchain for RegTech, because I was quite more involved into the RegTech discussion these 2 years, and we see blockchain can definitely use to better balance the like how we manage the users' information to do the KYC. How do we report to the regulator department more real time, more transparent, providing the report, and how to do the joint the risk calculations through multi-party secure computation. So I would say we definitely need to see more use case and exploration on blockchain for the RegTech. And from another point of view, I think the regulation issue is not only for us as blockchain or crypto industry, it's also for the whole tech industry, because we are seeing more regulation on the internet exchange to handle, require us to handle data better, to treating people's privacy better. I think that's a good thing to make us to be more responsible for the tech, to think about the environmental impact. So I think that's definitely trigger point for us to remind us that technology should not only for the commercial interest, but also should be for the public good. Yeah.
And also, it's I have had a lot of arguments with crypto industry friends. Okay, they always say crypto is a currency. It's a currency. You see the name, cryptocurrency. I say, okay, I give you a definition. What currency is when at least the 30% change hands volume is for payment. Then I recognize that as a currency. Right now, the change hands 99.99999% is for investment purpose. So it's a security. That's a simple definition. Okay, if I'm not using my Microsoft stock to buy grocery, okay, it's a security. I cannot use that. Nobody will accept that, to pay for grocery. But of course, if there's a common stock, when we change hands, 30%, 50% is to buy something, then that security become a currency. So that's my definition. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a great segue. Oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
So yeah, I think maybe just one thing to bear in mind is that when, or if, but I would rather think when we move into a multi-CBDC world where we have CBDCs that are available and stablecoins that are available in different countries, and there's going to be a lot of swaps of CBDCs between each other. And stable coins on one side and CBDCs on another side, and a lot of different countries getting involved in this. At this point in time, we have a lot of recommendation groups. So we have obviously, we have like the BIS, we have the IMF, but we don't really have a global regulator. And this is an interesting point. And this is a really interesting point. We're part of a group called the Digital Money Institute. And one of the things that keeps on coming up, and one of the discussions that really keeps on coming up there is there going to be like a CBDC police as such? And what and how will that be? And this is something that maybe is going to be quite important in the future. I'm not sure if I have really like an answer to that, to be honest with you. I think it's a question that a lot of people are kind of asking, but it's definitely an interesting point. I think in a world of multi-CBDCs, which we're going to see hopefully over the next 10 years or so, then the regulation landscape will probably change and adapt to that as well.
Yeah, I think David just raised very good point, because right now if you carry some cash, you carry some euro cash and get in the US and doing some bad things and you got arrested, the US authority know how to process that cash. Okay, because it's cash, you hold that, you can process it. But let's imagine it's someone holds digital euro, okay, into US and do something bad and got arrested. And even the US authority can access the wallet, can see everything, but it needs the central bank from Europe to actually work with them to process the money. Okay, so just by processing the money, it will be totally different from cash and the digital currency. So that's really good point. There will be some kind, at least I don't think there will be some kind of authority set up by UN and doing that. But there will be a huge IT system in place and to handle that kind of thing cross border. So that's definitely will be there. That's a huge industry and a huge job for Thoughtworks and the GFT in the future, probably in 10 years.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to think about, is the headaches all the regulators are going to have trying to manage this cross-border financial issues. But yeah, let's segue out of the regulations, although I think we could probably spend an hour talking about that alone. I want to get back to the use cases, and we're talking about currencies and cryptocurrencies. But obviously, the people that you are working with, both David and Shangqi, they're working on probably a lot of different applications. So, like, what solutions are you guys, seeing right now, and what are some of like the key issues facing these solutions from being implemented? David, why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, so we're working on all sorts of things, to be honest with you. I mean, it really depends on our clients. We're working on a lot of stuff in the post-trade area. We're working on a lot of stuff on bonds, for example. Green bonds and ESG is quite popular area at the moment. We're doing a lot of stuff around supply chain. We're doing things around smart communities, where we work with local governments and like local shops and energy providers. So to be honest with you, we just work on a vast amount of projects. I think we've got about 8 or 9 projects currently, and out of those 8 or 9 projects, 2 of them are in the industry area. The rest are in what we saw in the financial services area, but they're all slightly different to each other. There's a couple that are like more kind of crypto exchange. So I suppose you can kind of put them in a bucket, but everything else is a different area within the bank or within the exchange, or a completely different area. So I don't think we see certain trends kind of popping up, as I mentioned before, like green bonds, a big interest in CBDCs, post trade, and like trade finance and these kind of areas. But it really, most of the time, clients come to us and they have an idea, and their idea is kind of unique, and that's and it kind of creates something unique. So that's what we kind of try to work with our clients, rather than kind of focusing in on specific areas of interest. In terms of challenges, I think we mentioned it before. It's kind of getting rid of common misconceptions about blockchain. So blockchain isn't crypto. DLT isn't blockchain. Do we even need to use blockchain in every use case? All of these kind of things. And also the amount of technology that there is out there. So deciding what kind of technology you want to use, and building a product. But that's the day-to-day of being an IT services provider as well, right? We do that with every type of technology that we use. So yeah.
Yeah, and that leads me to my follow-up for you, David, about the different technologies that you recommend for your clients. I mean, do you have one or two go-to protocols, or do you have just like a wide range of things that you pull from?
So we're completely technology agnostic. So we've worked with like 10 or 11 different protocols with our clients, and then internally we're also doing tests with maybe like 3 or 4 different protocols internally. So we either advise our clients based on what they want to do to a particular protocol. So they might have an idea, but they're not necessarily, they don't have an SME who's particularly strong in this area, and we might give them the advice that leads them towards a particular protocol. Or they might come to us with a suggestion towards using a particular protocol. So yeah, I think in the financial services area, on the kind of private blockchain area, we're seeing a lot of people starting to use VMware blockchain, Corda, DAML smart contracts, Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Besu. I mean, but really, it very much depends on the use case, to be honest with you. So it varies, and things like the BSN that can encapsulate a lot of different platforms and make them more accessible to their clients, or even DAML smart contracts as well. That means that you can write your smart contract once and then move it between platforms are very important to our clients, actually, because it makes it much more easy to for them to make their kind of technology decisions and then think, well, actually, I can quickly move to another platform if I need to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, same question for you, Shangqi. Different technologies and the challenges you're facing.
Yeah, also similar like David's point, because we have diverse clients with diverse requirements, so we really choose different tech stack and recommend different. Sometimes it's not even recommend them to build. Instead, they sometimes they need to join some add-ins to save a lot of effort. So, like for finance service, usually we recommend the like Corda, Hyperledger Fabric, and Fabric is quite popular in China mainland. And for some of them, we need more complex, sophisticated smart contract. We may recommend like Chrome, Besu, and such and such. I think that really depends on the specific use case and the specific requirement. And more importantly, how to, because we are more enterprise facing. It's like how to pass through the enterprise internal EA requirements, security requirements. That's quite key to our application adoption. And regarding the challenge, I would say, honestly, I would say, although we educate our clients that blockchain is trying to reduce the silos, the data silos, the information silo, to build up this more transparent, better way of communicate. But honestly speaking, we still doing the blockchain application in a very traditional way. We choose different stack, we choose different communication protocols, different consistent protocols. That is very hard to reach the network effects that we need. Only by reach the great network effects that I would say we can get the value of blockchain. So for now, whether it's a technical issue or use case issue or from political issue, some client just do not want to join another alliance. I think that's very hard, very huge challenge for us to build such a network effect for blockchain. Yeah.
Okay, great to hear. Yifan, I'm also curious about, because obviously BSN is also working to kind of in this consultancy space and promoting the mass adoption of blockchain technology. So what challenges are you seeing, especially one that like hindered the development of the blockchain technology, and what can, obviously BSN, but also things like GFT and Thoughtworks, how can they promote the adoption of technology?
Yeah. Still, as I said before, first we need to realize this industry is so early. Okay, it's in the baby. If you see that this human being is like 1 year old. Okay, just learn how to walk. So at this stage, that means all the technology are actually premature. Which means if you choose to learn some, a stack technology framework, it could be gone in 3 years. Nobody will use it, and also could be an open source project, and nobody want to get involved anymore. So it dies in the middle. So that's actually a challenge for especially for banks. They don't want spend a lot of money, adopt some kind of technologies. Then in 5 years, they couldn't even find a developer for that. So, but it could happen, okay, because it's so early in the industry. So that's actually one reason. And another thing is right now, because there's, the different technologies and also there's not standards. When there's no standards, then everything is very expensive. Okay, so that's a second issue. If a company want to try build some kind of POC. And when the budget come in, they say, okay, I need to spend $500,000 even to try this technology. They say, okay, let's forget it. Let's wait for 3 years. Then when the cost drops, then let's try. So that's why actually those are the two reasons we want to build BSN. Because right now we can, the BSN actually is not blockchain. It's basically integrated. So we basically integrate, all the blockchain technology into one network, and you can choose anyone you want, and also you can basically also the interoperability. On BSN it's easier to call smart contract from one chain to another chain. Even with different framework. So we want to achieve one. If you want to try the technology, basically it's free on BSN. We have testnets. You can just program your smart contracts through on the testnet, call through the APIs, and it's totally for free actually. And even you want to build your commercial chain, it's actually much cheaper. It's like 3% of the cost if you use AWS or AliCloud. So it's just for people to try. We don't think right now you should build a, fully commercialized application yet. Probably not this year, probably starting next year if you are a big corporation. But you can try, build some small application, put it into the production environment and connect to your traditional system and try everything. Right now, we really need more people to try. Then they will come up, okay, we need this tool, we need to, make this better. That's how the whole industry move forward. So that's why BSN, what we do is right now for BSN, we have public BSN, basically like internet. There's so many portals you can get in. And also we have a private BSN. We install that into different intranets and, for people to, also for the private BSN, we have two versions. One is for production. Right now, we actually are already deployed like 6 sites into the 6 different governments in China. So how they use that is basically within the private BSN, they can manage all the application blockchain-based application in one place. Right now, for the Nanjing city, a major city in China, the government already deployed like 30 different blockchain. Now they lose control. Okay, they couldn't, on their internet, they couldn't even find all those nodes. And then each application has their own CA system, user system, APIs, gateways, everything. It's totally, right now they want to build a platform just like private BSN, manage everything. Those 30 different applications use the 3 different frameworks. So totally very messy. So that's where the private BSN, the production version comes in. Then we have another one. It's called blockchain development sandbox. So it's for the tech company. They can basically develop everything on this sandbox. Get their external partners and even their customer into that and develop and try everything together, because we have all the frameworks, all the technology, and you can even deploy the private BSN on different clouds and form a sandbox, one sandbox, so you can test the different clouds, capability, everything. So it's but whatever we do right now, it's still a very early stage, because personally, this is actually a personal opinion. I believe eventually there will be a protocol like HTTP, okay? Because we think HTTP, it's to handle the two party to communicate. There will be a protocol to handle multiple party to connect to each other very easily. Not like right now you need to choose a framework and install a node and connect it to a network. It should be as easy as, just like HTTP with IP address, is a certificate, something, and boom, you should connect to it. And but the protocols only handle the communication, encryption, authentication. But for how to store the data, what's the consensus is really up to you. Can build, on top of that, then form any kind of DLT network you want. Okay, you can even store the data in text format. Nobody cares. So it should be that very light protocol, not like today you need to install a lot of stuff and doing that. So I believe eventually the blockchain technology should become a common protocol to handle multiple IT systems to communicate together in a broadcasting way. So that's my belief.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yifan. David, Shangqi, did you have any closing thoughts on the challenges that we're facing? We've reached the end of the hour, but if you want to add anything, it would be a good time.
No, I don't. I think maybe just to reiterate what I said at the beginning. At least in my world, our clients are becoming a lot more in touch with what blockchain is, and we are seeing more things going to production as well. So we're getting out of the experimental phase of DLT and more into the production phase of DLT. And hopefully over the next couple of years, we'll see more and more of that supported by the technologies such as the BSN.
Very promising. Shangqi?
Yeah, me too. We may face a lot of challenging when adopting the blockchain technology, but I think it's more important to keep the confidence and to keep trying for this. I think that's better for the adoption.
Okay. I want to thank all of you for coming on. It was very promising. And I think it really speaks to the industry that we're in, where, we start off talking about challenges, but then we get drawn into like the legal regulatory side. We're really building at the forefront, and there are so many things that we have to process and to take into account. But generally the vibe that I'm getting from everyone that we talk to, including you guys, is that we are on the right track, and that it's a track worth pursuing. So thanks again for coming on today. And hopefully we can have a conversation like this again.